All right, this is lesson 3 for module 4. This is going to be on page number 103. The directions say to fill in the chart, and the first one is done for us. So we're going to kind of use the first one as a guide to answer the next 3 rows down below. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do B right now. I'm going to change my pen color to black. And we have to fill in the missing boxes. So we know that the mixed number is 1 and 2/5. Let's figure out if we can find the improper fraction or the fraction that's greater than 1 that would actually be 1 and 2/5. Well, if I take the 1 whole and turn it into fifths, that's 5/5 plus 2/5. So that tells me my improper fraction is going to be 7/5. Going over to the division expression right here, if I know that the improper fraction, the fraction greater than 1, is 7/5, that means the division sentence is going to be, numerator is our denominator, which is 7, and then divided by the denominator, which is a divisor in the division sentence, which is 5. So imagine those 5 crackers, they're all divided up into fifths. How many total fifths would you have? Well, you would have 35. That's taking 7 and 5 and multiplying them together. And then if I have 35 fifths and I actually divide it up between 5 people, 35 divided by 5 would give you 7/5. And so going over to the final box, we're going to be having to do standard algorithm and doing a little long division to show how the answer to a division problem is also a fraction. So we're going to do 7 divided by 5. We know that 5 can go into 7 at least one time. So 1 times 5 is 5. I get a remainder of 2. Well, that remainder is my numerator, and the denominator is going to be the divisor, the 5. 1 and 2/5. We're going to skip the check so that we can kind of move on to the next problem. But if I were to check it, all I would do is take 1 and 2/5 and add it 5 times. And if I add it correctly, it should give me a answer of 7, which is my dividend. All right, we're going to do 1C next. We have the division problem over on the right that we'll kind of use to start us off. So let's go ahead, and 2 can go into 7 at least 3 times, no more than that. 3 times 2 is 6, with the remainder of 1, so that becomes my numerator, which is also my, my 1's my numerator, the 2 is our denominator. So the mixed number is 3 1/2. The division problem was 7 divided by 2, so over on the far left, 7 divided by 2. Imagine you had 7 crackers and you had to cut them all in halves. Well, how many halves would you have total? You'd have 14 halves. Divide that by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, so you have 7 halves, which then tells you that the fraction greater than 1, or the improper fraction, is 7/2. And then 1D, we have the division sentence already and the fraction greater than 1. So let's go ahead and figure out what's the mixed number. How many wholes can I pull out? And I can only pull out 1 whole, 4/4, and then I would have 3/4 left over. If I use my little long division, I can prove that the answer is 1 3/4 by taking the 7 and divide it by 4. 4 goes in the 7 one time. 1 times 4 is 4, with a remainder of 3. So this proves that 7 divided by 4 is also 1 whole and 3/4. So let's go back to the second box. So imagine those 7 crackers are all divided up into fourths. Well, how many fourths would you have? Well, 7 times 4 is 28, so you have 28 fourths. you would divide that by the 4 people, which then tells you 28 divided by 4 is 7. And then our unit comes back over, so it'll be 7/4. All right, the final word problem for this lesson is number 3. It says Polly buys 14 cupcakes for the party. The bakery puts them into boxes that hold 4 cupcakes each. First part of the problem is how many boxes will be needed for Molly to bring all the cupcakes to the party. Explain how you know. So I'm going to go back and kind of circle some key information. So Polly buys 14 cupcakes for the party. The bakery puts them into boxes that hold 4 cupcakes each. So the question says, how many boxes will be needed for Polly to bring all the cupcakes to the party? So how many boxes? That's kind of our answer. We're going to figure out how many boxes Polly is going to need to bring all, and I want you to box in all the cupcakes because we can't have any cupcakes left over. And we have to kind of do some explanation once we figure out how many boxes that is. So really quick, this should be a division problem because we're taking the 14 cupcakes and we are dividing them into, or grouping them by 4 to put into a box. So if I follow the pattern on the previous lesson and this one, 14 divided by 4 would give me 14 over 4 or 14/4, which means I can pull out all wholes. I can pull out 3 wholes and I would have 2/4 or 2 out of the 4 left over. So it looks like the 3 is going to tell me how many boxes I'm going to have. So there's going to be 3 boxes that are completely full with 4 cupcakes in each, so that's 12. And there's going to be 2 cupcakes left over out of the 4. So if there's 2 cupcakes left over, that means I'm going to need to have another box. So because the question says how many boxes will be needed to bring all the cupcakes. If I quickly, before I write my answer, if I kind of show us the little long division way, if you had 14 and you divided it by 4, change to blue, how many times can 4 go into 14? Well, that's going to be 3 whole times, which gives you a 12 to subtract from 14, which gives you 2 cupcakes that are left over, but they need a box. So it looks like the last box is not going to be completely filled. So our sentence turns out to be Polly will need 4 boxes to bring all the cupcakes to the party. And to explain how I know is because 3 boxes will be completely full and the last box will have the last 2 cupcakes. And we're going to go ahead and answer the second part of 3. So it says, if the bakery completely fills as many boxes as possible, what fraction of the last box is empty? How many more cupcakes are needed to fill this box? So kind of go back to annotate. If the bakery completely fills as many boxes as possible, so if the bakery completely fills as many boxes as possible, the question is, what is the fraction of the last box that is empty? And then the second question is, how many more cupcakes are needed? How many more cupcakes are needed to fill this box? So our sentence is going to be, starting off, the fraction of the last box that is empty. Well, up above we had, 3 and 2/4. So the last box had 2/4 filled. That means what's empty is going to be 2/4. Or we can simplify that to be 1/2. And we should know that 2 more cupcakes are needed to fill the last box. All right, and that ends this lesson, lesson 3 for module 4.